And somebody asked me, why are black people so big today? That looking at the athletes, and they were like, why are y'all so big? And he was white, and I explained to him. Well, I didn't explain to him. I just told him I don't know. But I was thinking about it later. The real answer I had was because we were bred. I mean, everything, all that is still being passed down. We were bred. They talk about kids in my school used to say, well, black people have a third, extra muscle in their leg. But it's not about us having an extra muscle in our leg. Like, we were built to, that's the way we were built in Africa. Like, we were meant, that was our purpose. Our athleticism, our ability to do what we did, that had a tie to our purpose. They had a tie to who we were. But they see it as, well, they saw us as property. And they used that, I won't say they used it against us, they used it for their economical gain. And I go to the third one. The order of the king of Elohim is to live by the laws of the kingdom. I mentioned this before. Could somebody get Genesis 4 and 3 for me? I meant to get it up here. And once we see that we have access to commonwealth, we'll be more focused, and our mindset will be more focused on the kings and his plans and not our plans. Because if you look at a lot of our plans, it's about getting money. I mean, when I was younger, that wasn't my plan, because I was raised in a home where a lot of stuff was given to me. But once I started getting older and, my parents started pulling away, it was like, oh, this is for real. You got the scripture? Yes. Right. So Cain didn't bring the best that he had. He was supposed to, it was the first fruits. He was supposed to bring his best. He was supposed to bring his first. But Cain withheld. And Elohim told him, if you do what was right, it basically wouldn't happen. But he made a choice. And that's what many of us do as believers. We make a choice to do wrong. You have believers who actually know the truth but don't live it. And it's a choice that they made. And Yeshua prophesied about it. He talked about how people would rather choose darkness than light. And that's what many are doing today. It's darkness. That's what all of it is. Some of it is not even a trick of the enemy. It's a choice. And I just have to hit that, because a lot of us a lot of believers are making the wrong choices. And one thing we have to look at is the Christians back then, the prisoners of war, the owners of the prisoners of war, they would have the slaves doing all type of stuff, and we'll see it here. Go to the next one. All right. Entertainment and slavery. Prisoners of war suffered appalling conditions. They were dehumanized as the inferior race and thus viewed as not deserving of the unalienable rights established in the Declaration of Independence. Instead, they were considered property and had no say as what happened to them or their families. I'm going to tell y'all what this sounds like in a minute, but I'm going to keep reading. Because of the interesting anomalies that we talked about this, that their bodies represented slaves, and they called them freaks too, because a lot of them were in circuses. They would have, what's her name? Yes, Miss Bartman. She was actually in England, but they used her as a display because of her posterior, because she had a big butt, and that people would view her. They would take sticks and poke her, because we weren't people. You're right. To them, we weren't people. And even after her death, they had her body parts on display. We just have to see how their minds worked then. It was accepted. That was the way it's acceptable. And today we know we have a system that is being accepted and pushed on not only the black community, but being pushed in America. I was looking at, I'm not trying to get too far off topic, but I was looking at it was some testimonials about this guy. He used to teach at a museum where he would talk about slavery and talk about the harsh times of the prisoners of war. And he said the issues that he had with or the race that he had the most issues with were whites. And the reason he had issues with the whites because he said all the stuff they would say. He would be teaching about slavery, what actually went on and what happened, and they would come. And he said one guy came to him and said, if you keep teaching this, you're going to divide the country. But he was saying, this is America's history. This is what happened. And he said he would see little kids coming there and their parents and things like that, and they would look at him funny because of what he was teaching. But what he was teaching was the truth. And a lot of it, they didn't want him to talk about, but it was part of the tour that, he was doing. And a lot of it was interesting to me because I did not realize that everybody did not know about the harsh conditions of slavery. And that was appalling to me. But getting back on subject, when it talks about up here entertainment and slavery, when they were dehumanized as the inferior race and thus viewed as not deserving of the unalienable rights established in the Declaration of Independence. Instead, they were considered property and had no say of what happened to them, their families. So they would take their families and sell them off. They take a man from the wife, take the child away. The thing about this is that what it sounds a lot like to me is athletes today. Because, that they would take the property or that they deem slaves as property, and they would sell them, they would trade them. And today, if you look at athletes, it's almost like they're trading cards. And we as people actually treat them like trading cards too, even though we don't think that way, but we actually do. Oh, it'll be great if LeBron went here. It'll be great if he went there. These people have These people have lives. They have a family too. But that's not what we think about. That's not the way it's been conditioned. And this is not the root of it, but this is where part of it is coming from. And I talked a lot about the bodies, so I'll keep going. In Black Dance in the United States from 1619 to 1970, Lynn Foley Emery discusses the slave owners' practice of what they call dancing the slaves. This activity occurred on board the ships transporting the slaves from prisoners of war from Africa to America. The voyage, American history records as in the middle passage. She notes dancing was encouraged for economic reasons. Slaves who had been exercised looked better and brought a higher price. Noting the psychological benefits of exercise, slave owners forced slaves to exercise to maintain their health. Alexander Falconridge, a white surgeon on board of one of the slave ships, recalled exercise being deemed necessary for the preservation of the slaves' health. They are sometimes obliged to dance when the weather will permit their coming on deck. So they would make the slaves dance. One thing that I saw was that the prisoners, where they would make them dance because it was appealing to the ones that were buying them. If they can dance, that they want to make them look more appealing. Why would you want to sell this prisoner? Well, why would you want to sell that one? And in order to catch the eye, they would, have them dance. And here you will see that they also made them exercise. And you'll see people today, their whole life philosophy is exercise. And Scripture says, I really don't want to misquote it. Scripture says, let me help me out, Dr. Larry, that exercise profits little. And it is healthy for us. Right. It is healthy for us, but it is not the basis of our lives. And you have them, they get up from 4 in the morning, they in the gym at 8 at night, and we'll see that, they had prisoners of war doing the same thing. They had to keep them in shape, had to keep them healthy. You gotta keep these athletes healthy. They making you money. These owners, they need them. And I'll get more into that. But we just have to look at where a lot of this is coming from, because it's not new. And like I said, I was falling a victim because I was ignorant. Nobody ever told me about any of this. And that's why I want to spread the truth today. And the truth doesn't come from me. It comes from Elohim.